it's that time again. Hello and welcome to the Gimme 5 podcast. Rod Woodward here in Cardiff. Gary Marshall's in Doncaster. And wow, this is one exciting show in the offing. We're going to introduce our guest post-haste because, well, he's a living legend. And how often we get to say that about our guests. But before we do, how did the mighty Bayer Leverkusen get on the weekend?
Oh, Rod. It's hard to take. We drew, and they got a 95th minute equaliser from the penalty spot. 3-2 up. We made it 3-2 after 85 minutes. And amazingly, all of the 3 Leverkusen goals were penalties, all stuck away by Todge. I mean, that's like Jan Molby-esque, is that, that's I'll tell you. And then our left back, Snowy, in the 94th minute, there's a ball coming out. It went to head it. I've no idea why. He got disorientated, spun round, and didn't know where he was. And he just legged the kid up in the box. 95th minute penalty. Bosh. 3-3. Dreadful.
Nightmare. Oh, I bet he hasn't taken that very well.
Well, we haven't heard from him since.
Joking?
No.
I hope he hasn't done anything stupid.
Well, I hope the manager doesn't and pick him next week. That's the thing.
So where does this leave you in the league now? This is like
I think it leaves us still fifth bottom.
Fifth bottom.
Yeah, fifth bottom. So we're flying.
Getting exciting. Well, keep us posted. But on to matters more serious, because it's a great pleasure to introduce our special guest today. He's performed all around the world with legends like Frank Sinatra. In fact, the whole Rat Pack: Jack Benny, Tommy Cooper, even Judy Garland, Gus. And we've got a big Judy Garland following on the show, as you know. It is the legend that is Sol Bernstein. He's here.
Hi, Ron. How are you? Rod, not Ron. Gary and Gary Marshall. A pleasure to see you.
It's great to see you. And I can't believe you've taken time out of your schedule, which is always 100% flat out, isn't it?
Well, when you pay big money, I always do it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, where do I send the invoice? I never asked that question. I should have.
That'll be to Yorkshire, so good luck with that.
Okay.
So, I mean, lockdown, how's it treated you?
Pretty good, to be honest with you. Listen, I'm an old guy. I'm getting to the point where I won't say the less I do, the better. It's been fun. You probably don't know, I'm not in the best of health. And during the first lockdown, particularly, my nurse, who came to visit me kind of a couple of times a day, moved in. She stayed for 3 months with me. And we were about the beginning of the second month. She said, you know, Mr. Bernstein, she said, my boyfriend and I wanted to have a baby. Obviously, I can't be with him now for a couple of months. Could you help me out? What do you say? A beautiful young woman. We tried it 3 times a week, all at the right times. And I got to be honest with you, it didn't work. I feel guilty. I should have mentioned my vasectomy. I don't know. It didn't. But I hope she's not watching this. But apart from that, to be honest, I've enjoyed it. I can watch movies. Thank God for Netflix. I got Amazon Prime. You got YouTube, or JewTube, as I like to call it. I read. I like to read. Love to read. I kept pretty busy. No big deal. The only thing I haven't missed, to be honest with you, is traffic. Gary, well, both of you know, being on the road, particularly on a Friday afternoon, leaving London to go to the north of England. Gary, we did something a few months ago. When in between lockdowns, we did Doncaster somewhere.
Yeah, you can. Hickleton.
Yeah, the show was on a Monday. Was it Monday or a Tuesday?
Monday, yeah.
And it was to drive up from London was a pleasure. You know, it was easy. On a Friday, that would have taken me 3 days. I would have had to leave and stay somewhere a couple of nights or something to stop over. But no, I'm rambling, and I'm not even pressed for it. That's an Andy Smart joke. I got to tell you, I always love Andy doing that line. That's his. I won't steal it.
Well, I was looking at your CV, Sol, and apart from the fact that you've performed at every major venue in the world, I mean, the Carnegie Hall, the London Palladium, Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace. You've also got an incredible reputation in the realm of jazz. I noticed that Miles Davis and Louis Armstrong, they all voted you the best triangle player.
Absolutely, and people laugh. They think, what, big deal. What's a triangle? It's nothing. Well, let me show you something, my friend.
Wow.
That's the triangle. I'll tell you. We used to play. I used to work in the clubs in New York, the comedy clubs, nightclubs. Then I would go down to see Miles and the jazz players. And as soon as Miles saw me, he said, "Sol, come and sit in." And he was the boss, always the boss, very manipulative, always like to be in charge. And suddenly he would like, "Gary, do a solo, whatever you're doing. Rod, do a solo on that." And it would be Sol, do a solo on this thing. I did a solo once, 10 minutes. And the truth is, that's why all those guys took heroin, because they couldn't handle the noise from this thing. I would be all over the place. It was fun, great fun. Got some great memories working with those guys. Great memories.
Well, you're a man of many, many talents. And
I don't know about that, but I try.
I tell you, I'm so looking forward to hearing some of your guilty pleasures in the Gimme 5. But before we do, Gaz is just going to explain the concept as if you didn't know already.
Yeah,
Okay.
as if you didn't know, Sol, I've sent you the categories. You've chosen 4. Your 5th has to be dinner guests, dead or alive. The 4 categories you chose were films, songs,
correct. Yep.
Comedians,
yep,
artists, or groups.
Yep.
So we're going to start you off with your film choices, your top 5 films of all time. We'll have your first one, please.
Okay, the first one has got to be The Godfather, number 1.
Yep. That's not the first time it's been on this, I think.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. For me, one of the greatest movies ever. And I always felt that Brando was my favorite actor anyway. But I figured if he'd only ever made The Godfather, he was still a great actor. If you hadn't seen On the Waterfront, any of the Streetcar Named Desire, The Godfather, absolutely fantastic. And the guy was a very sexy guy. I saw a documentary recently on the wonderful Richard Pryor. And I think it was his daughter. I can't remember her name. What's her name? But anyway, she was talking about Richard Pryor being very promiscuous. She said that, and Pryor was friends with Brando. Apparently, Brando would fuck a letterbox. I just what a funny vision that is. Putting your speckle in a letterbox. That's the kind of guy he was. That's The Godfather's my favorite movie. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm with you with Brando there. I mean, he was just effortless, wasn't he? He almost invented that method style of acting, didn't he?
Absolutely. Listen, that's not to say he didn't make some bad movies. I think everybody has, but his choices were pretty good. That was, and you can't believe they didn't want him. Paramount didn't want him to play the part.
We just had something from our producer. He says, according to Al Pacino, the tears in Marlon Brando's eyes were real in the hospital scene when Michael pledges himself to his father.
Well, that's because he hadn't had a shag for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Al Pacino, James Caan, Diane Keaton were all paid $35,000 for the work on the film.
Yeah,
I bet Brando got more than that. Especially when
he was on a percent. I don't think they paid it. There wasn't a fixed fee. Was there a percentage? I think because they didn't. They definitely didn't. Paramount didn't want him. Yeah, they thought he was a troublemaker, and it wouldn't work. And well, the rest is history.
Yes, yeah. When you think of what he got for that Superman film, eventually. I think he still holds the record there, doesn't he? And
I think so. I can't remember what the figure was, but I know it's something obscene.
Yeah, it was like at the time it was about $5 million. I think I always remember Frank Skinner saying after Marlon Brando's son had been arrested and sent down for a drive-by, he said, "See, Marlon Brando got $5 million for a day's shooting. That's more than his son got." Great line. Typical Skinner, that. So yeah, we're with you on The Godfather. That absolutely gets a big thumbs up, and I think, I mean, that's got to be high up on the list. That's probably appeared more than any other film.
Yeah, it's appeared 3 times, I think, so far. Definitely.
Good choice.
Was The Godfather 2 supposedly the better film? I don't know if preempt you, because was that supposed to be the better film, The Godfather 2?
Actually, I haven't picked any other Godfathers as it happens. But I tell you, I thought two was great. I preferred 1. Right. And I'm possibly the only person I know who enjoyed 3.
Right.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed 3 because I didn't compare it to 1 and 2.
Yeah, it gets a bad rap, 3, but it's not a bad film, is it? Especially when you compare it to other films.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
So that's The Godfather out of the way. Number 1. Number 2 on your list, Sol?
Number 2 is another gangster movie, Once Upon a Time in America.
That's a long film, isn't it?
It's about a 3.5-hour film, maybe a little bit longer. De Niro, James Woods. Another great, for me, this was kind of not an important movie, but it was about Jewish gangsters, because when people think about the gangsters in America, it was always Italian Americans. But I won't say, I'm proud to say, but there were a lot of Jewish gangsters. There was a team of guys called Murder Incorporated. This is factual stuff, run by Louis Lepke Buchalter. I can't remember, and who was the other one? Mendy Weiss. And these guys took contracts. They took from the Italian Americans, gave them contracts to kill people. It was a company of hitmen.
Right.
And basically, Once Upon a Time in America was a kind of similar kind of idea about Jewish gangsters from the Lower East Side who made it big during Prohibition. And do you know the movie by any chance?
I do know the movie.
It had the Western feel, didn't it, to it? Almost like
it was directed by Serge Leone.
Yeah.
It was only film. 15 minutes short of 4 hours. The film.
Is it okay? That's right. I'd say it was 3.5 to 4.
Yeah, evidently when footage was finished, I think the footage was either 8 to 10 hours they had in the film, and he wanted to cut it down to 2 3-hour films. And then in the end, just cut it down to 3. Just cut it down to 3 hours 45.
Great film. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that again. It's been a long time since I've seen it. So
give yourself a couple of days.
Yeah. Give yourself a couple. Yes, brilliant. 2 good choices there. Then
number 3, Sol.
Number 3 has got to be. Well, I've got to throw a musical in because I love music. It's been part of my life. West Side Story.
Oh,
Leonard Bernstein. Yeah.
No relation. Leonard's no relation to me, but what a movie. What a great songs, the dancing. Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely fabulous.
My mum used to love this film. She's met me. I used to watch it with her when I was a young boy.
Really?
Yeah. I used to love the film. The Sharks and the Jets, wasn't it?
That's correct. That's absolutely.
I remember he was a man who didn't suffer fools, Leonard Bernstein, and he used to lecture at all the great music conservatories, and the most informed man you could ever meet. He was so cultured, he knew about everything. But there's a brilliant documentary where he's making an album of West Side Story with Jose Carreras, and who at the time was one of the leading opera singers in the world, of course, part of the big 3. And he's giving Carreras the bollocking you wouldn't believe, because he can't quite get it right. And he just didn't pull any punches. He didn't stand on ceremony just because it was Jose Carreras. He wanted it right, and that was it, And I guess you're the same, Sol, aren't you? You.
No, I tell you something. No, I think if you're searching for perfection, you'll search all your life. Listen, we're all comics. Is there a perfect gig? I don't think so. There are shows that I've done. I thought, wow, I really killed tonight, but one joke didn't work that well.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not a killer gig. So basically, I've never had a show that I'm 100% happy with.
I think even if you have an absolute blinder, there'll always be one person you spot in the audience.
Oh,
that aren't not even.
Absolute. And the frightening thing is, you always spot. There's always one there. You'll always spot them, and it hurts. And then you focus on them.
Yeah, you do. And you're trying to please them. I even look and smile.
I tell you,
I don't know why. They hate me.
There's a wonderful gig somewhere in Norwich. I think Jamie Sullivan was booking it at one time. It's the guy that runs it is a guy called Mark Webb, and his brother is Mitchell and Webb.
All right.
And the guy runs. He's got a potato farm in real. What they call, there's a woman's name, Mary something potatoes, or Mary Piper, is it something?
Mary Piper, yeah, Mary Piper.
Maris Piper.
He runs, and he runs this fabulous gig. I've done it. I think I've done it twice now, and I went back about 18 months ago. Hadn't been there for 4 years, and when I was on stage, I'm delighted to be back. Last time I was here was 4 years ago. Had a wonderful gig. Next day, somebody sends me an email on my website saying, I understand it's 4 years since you were there. I hope it's a lot longer till you come back. And I think, you piece of shit. I drove home last night on those horrible roads, getting out of Norfolk, those little windy roads, and I was buzzing. I thought, what a great show tonight. And this son of a bitch. And I didn't know if it was a man or a woman. In fact, all the email address said at Google Mail. There was no name at the front, so I don't know how that kind of thing gets through. I didn't think it could. I thought you have to announce who it is.
It was one of those spineless keyboard warriors. I wouldn't give it a second thought. Yeah. What does he know?
Well, comedy's subjective. He knew what he liked, or maybe she. I don't know.
He probably wouldn't have enjoyed that triangle as well when you were playing with Miles Davis.
Would have hated it.
The man's a Philistine.
Especially a long solo, 40-minute solo, would have broken his heart.
And we got there from West Side Story, believe it or not.
We did.
Absolutely, we did.
It's a great choice, incidentally, because it's just been flagged up that it won 10 Academy Awards, which became the Oscar-winning record, beating the record that Gigi set in '58. Only 3 years ago.
Brilliant. Go on then, number 4.
Number 4, it's got to be, well, one of my favorite comedians of all time is Woody Allen. I'm going to go for Manhattan. I love the visuals of New York. And there's a wonderful, I think I've got this right. I'm not confusing it, I hope. There's a lovely scene where he's talking to his father, and he says, he's talking about changing his religion. And he said, have you ever thought of, to his father, what are you talking about? Change your religion. You're Jewish. And he said, no, but maybe I should try Buddhism. He said to his father, don't you ever think about that? He said, he said, I don't even know how the can opener works. And I just remember that. I just spat there. I just thought, what a wonderful line. I wish I could have thought of that line. It was just.
It's the second time a Woody Allen film has got in the top 5. Annie Hall was chosen by Dr. Jones.
Absolutely. Listen, I could have chosen Annie Hall. I loved Take the Money and Run, the first movie. I thought Zelig was great. I didn't like some of his kind of more dramatic things where he tried to be like the Swedish guy. I've lost his name for the minute, but there was a Swedish guy that he absolutely adores. Yeah. And that I prefer Woody Allen. Woody Allen for me is a comedian, so I want comedy stuff.
Good man.
Yeah, and you had the feeling he was onto a good thing with Meryl Streep. Of course, she was outstanding in that film, wasn't she? And
absolutely. Meryl Streep wasn't in Manhattan, was she? Or was she? Oh, she was his ex. She was his ex-wife?
Yeah, she She did a little hobble there. She was moonlighting because she shot the scenes during breaks while she was filming Kramer versus Kramer, apparently. So.
Oh, really? Do you know what? I was lost. Mariel Hemingway was the young love interest.
That's the one. Great eyebrows.
She was about 3 at the time, I think.
great.
Did I just say that? Cut that. Cut that.
No, keep that in. Keep that in.
Okay, keep it in.
And your final choice of your films?
Final choice, another gangster movie, and there's a particular scene that I absolutely love. And it's a movie called A Bronx Tale,
Oh.
which is De Niro and the big guy,
Chaz Palminteri. Yeah.
There's a wonderful scene in it where Chaz is they've got a bar, and a bunch of Hell's Angels come in for a drink, and Chaz, he plays Sal. I think he plays Sonny. His character Sonny. He says, "Hi guys, can I help you?" And they said, "Yeah, we just came in for a beer." And he said, "Okay, fellas," he said, "have it, don't want any trouble. Have a beer on me." And they all get a beer, and then they decided they go away. Then they come back. They're going to smash the place up. And he goes to the back and he opens the door. One of the boys goes in. Suddenly, a whole bunch of mafiosi come out, and they smash the hell out of these Hell's Angels. And I love on-screen violence. I have to say, it gets it out of. I'm not I want to explain that I'm not a violent person, but sometimes I get angry, and watching that kind of thing gets it out of my system.
Yeah.
Without, God forbid, me doing. I've never been a fighter or anything like that, but it just it helps me kind of unburden some inner things. I don't know, but they get a beating. These guys, they've gone in, and the gangsters are not. They don't want to be gangsters at this particular point. But the Hell's Angels are coming to smash the bar up. Yeah. Basically, they want to smash the building up, and they won't let it happen. So that's my 5. Listen, I could probably tell you another 10 movies that I love, but I've tried to cut it down to 5. In all my years, 88 years, I've seen a lot of movies. I've tried. Yeah, that would be the 5 I would take on a desert island with me.
That last one, I think, I'm guessing you won't have seen it, Gaz, but if you're going to watch one gangster movie, that is a great one, because this multi-leveled, isn't it, with, I think it's De Niro's directorial debut, and Chaz Palminteri, who's in it, he wrote it as well. And,
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't know the name, Chaz Palminteri.
You may recognize him when you see him, but he looks like a gangster, doesn't he?
Right. He does. And he was also in, what was the Bullets Over Broadway, the Woody Allen movie. Did you ever see that, Gary?
If I have, I've seen it once, and it'll be a long time ago. I'm going to try and get. He
played the gangster in that one.
Okay.
But he's Robert De Niro's a bus driver, and his son is sort of enchanted with the gangster lifestyle, isn't he?
Correct.
And
That's the movie.
There's a great moment in there when De Niro goes in because they've given the kid some money, and he doesn't want him to be in receipt of this gangster money, so he goes in and hands it back. And this face-to-face that he has, De Niro with Chaz Palminteri, it's just, you cannot take your eyes off that scene.
No, I know.
It's a wonderful.
I know. Listen, you could pick the scene from Heat with De Niro and Pacino. Yeah. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
But, listen. Great. You got 5, you can't put 6 if you were.
Exactly. We've got The Godfather, Once Upon a Time in America, West Side Story, Manhattan, and A Bronx
Well,
Tale.
the thing is, someone once said that Gary Marshall and Rod Woodward would never amount to anything. And that person must be feeling very smug indeed now.
I
Correct.
know you're massively into your music. So your next one was songs, your top 5 songs of all time.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come to a song later on. My favorite songwriter actually is Burt Bacharach. I'll come to a song with him later. But my favorite song of all time is a song called After the Love Is Gone.
Oh.
Which was recorded by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Correct, yeah.
I believe it was written by David Foster, Jay Graydon, and Bill Champlin.
Yeah.
And apparently Morris White of the Earth, Wind and Fire heard the song and said, he said, I want to do it. So they recorded it, and it's quite different to the original. The original was done by, oh God. If you just Google Jay Graydon or David Foster, there was a wonderful singer his name was WW. The initials were WW. He died. He was a great singer. He never became a big star, but he was a great singer.
Okay.
I think he did the first version of it. It'll come to me because I can't remember my name.
It's a great song.
I got to remember his.
It's
some dead guy's name.
Yeah. Something happened along the way.
Correct. Wonderful. And the arrangement is completely different to the original version.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. Lovely. For me, that's my favorite song ever.
It doesn't sound much like any other Earth, Wind and Fire song they ever did either. It was like something.
It was so mellow, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so mellow.
It is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
A beautiful song.
Great choice.
I'm glad you like that. Okay.
Love it. Number two,
I'm going to go for Georgia on My Mind.
Bit of Ray Charles.
Ray was a friend of mine. Absolutely, I worship the man. Absolutely love him. I could have picked virtually every. It's interesting, you know. I could have picked virtually anything he's ever done. But there's, I suppose, one or two songs that I'm not crazy about. I mean, I'm a big Stevie Wonder fan.
Yep.
I cannot bear the song I Just Called to Say I Love You.
Absolutely hate the song.
It's so un-Stevie Wonder, you know, with all the stuff he's done. It's so basically with Ray, I think, and what he did with country music. You know, if you ever saw, did you see the movie with Jamie Foxx?
Yeah.
Which was absolutely one, and I didn't know the complete story. And bearing in mind, I knew Ray when his contract expired with Atlantic Records, and he went to ABC Paramount, and they said, "Right, what do you want to do?" He said, "I want to do a country album." And they said, "You're crazy. You're going to lose your black audience." He said, "No, I'm going to gain," and he knew he had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
And I was a snob. For years I wouldn't listen to that modern sounds and country and Western music. And then I was listening to the radio and I heard "You Are My Sunshine," that old country song.
Yeah.
And his version of that, I thought, my God, I rushed out and bought the album. I mean, I'm talking 40 years ago. It still stands up, you know, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely. No, I love it. And I think Georgia was written by Hoagy Carmichael.
Hoagy Carmichael, who did Stardust and so many classics.
Correct. I could be wrong. But I think he wrote Georgia on My Mind. I think so.
The first time and I'm embarrassed to say this, first time I ever heard the song Georgia on My Mind, when I was a redcoat in '85 at the Metropolitan.
You should be embarrassed.
Yeah. We used to have comics on, like 5 comics a week, and one was a fellow called Billy Fontaine, who went over to Spain to finish off, and he'd always end his set by singing Georgia, and that's the first time I'd heard it. '85, love the song.
Oh, beautiful song.
Yeah, but I always think to myself, Billy Fontaine song that.
Billy Fontaine. It was funny that you said about the Stevie Wonder song that you didn't like there. As a kid, and I wasn't aware of it really at the time, but my mother said the song "Isn't She Lovely," isn't she lovely, isn't it? Isn't she lovely? With the harmonica solo in the middle.
Yeah.
Wherever I was, I used to scream the place down, and she'd have to take me out. And
Really? See, I loved that track. I think that was great. It was just I Called to Say I Love You, just the weirdest. And funnily enough, that came from the movie The Woman in Red.
Yeah.
And there was some great songs. There were a couple of songs that he did. Dionne Warwick did one, and they did a duet together, and they sounded like Bacharach songs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I Just Called to Say I Love You is horrendous song. It's in the top 10. You could do a top 5 worst songs of all time.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on the list.
Maybe not my top 5, but for somebody of his stature, and I think it's one of the biggest selling records he ever had as a single.
Yeah, it will have been. I think my favourite Stevie Wonder's "Do I Do," which is like a very. I think it went under the radar in this country. It wasn't a massive hit, but great song.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, absolutely wonderful.
Great.
Number 3 on your list?
Number 3. Well, again, I could have picked so many songs written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. I was actually, I've got another one coming up later. What the World Needs Now Is Love.
Oh, wow.
The Jackie DeShannon version. which I think was absolutely fabulous.
And that's a sentiment that's actually quite true and appropriate at the moment, I think, isn't it? It's
absolutely. And I'll tell you a little story you probably don't know, but Bert came over a couple of years ago, did some shows in London, and he sent me an email, said, "Solly, are you around?" And I said, "I'm around." He said, "Come and see the show." He left me a couple of tickets, come into the green room after the show. And I went in after, he was absolutely fabulous. I went in, before he goes on, he has a little keyboard just to warm up. He gave me a hug and a kiss. And he said, "Solly, remember this?" He starts playing, dun, 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 dun. What the world needs now is love. Now, what you don't know is the original version is what the world needs now. Jews, more Jews. That's the only thing that there's just too little of. And obviously, my luck, A&M Records didn't like it. Hal David came in and they changed the lyrics to "The World Needs Now Is Love." So I got screwed again. But that was the original version that I wrote with Bert. And what can I tell you? I should have been a rich man. And I'm not.
That sounds like a song title right there.
If I were a rich man, I know. I didn't write that either. But that is a great sentiment and a beautiful song. Beautiful song.
Beautiful song.
Well, I love it.
You've got impeccable taste thus far. I can see.
I don't know.
Your musicality is coming through.
I know what I like. Next one. You ready for the next one?
Ready for the next?
Right. Now, this one, I've got to say, I don't think it's such a fabulous song, but it was a great record. And it's "You've Lost That Loving Feeling," the Righteous Brothers.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, I'm thinking the way it was constructed, it wasn't "What the World Needs Now Is Love" or "Georgia." It wasn't a great song, you know, but the record was just magnificent. In my opinion, I absolutely loved it.
You've lost that loving feeling. That must take you back to your vasectomy.
It certainly does. Well spotted.
Good.
That was number one when I was born, by the way, that song. How was that for you?
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
February 65, that was number one.
What, 60? Yeah, 65.
Yeah, February 65.
You've lost that loving feeling. Wasn't it a big soundtrack in some movie as well, wasn't it? Was it the Top Gun? That was the scene.
Gun. Yeah, it was in Top Gun.
I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Okay. And is your last one a Burt Bacharach as well?
It's a Burt Bacharach, and this is and it's Alfie.
Oh, right.
I tell you what, I'd forgotten. I hadn't forgotten how much I loved the song. I think I've got it on my iPod. I've got it by Ronald Isley. One of the Isley brothers did an album with Burt Bacharach some years ago. I've got it by Dionne Warwick, obviously. I really love Cilla Black's version.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a great version, isn't it?
There's something about that song. I think on paper it shouldn't work, Sol. You know, you think, what's it all about, Alfie? I mean, Alfie's not even a very romantic sounding name. It's not a popular name, and yet it's got magic. It's got stardust in it somewhere.
And I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've seen it a number of times. There's a documentary, and you'll see Cilla recording Alfie, and George Martin is the producer, but Bacharach is there, kind of. He takes control of it, and he makes her sing it 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
And I've seen her being interviewed about, and she said, it can't get any better. And she said, I think we can get it better. Yeah. So he was looking for perfection, and I have to say, I think her version is. I'm not a big Cilla Black fan, but I think her version is absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think they showed that in that the TV thing that Sheridan Smith played Cilla. They showed that bit where George Martin's saying, "Do it again, do it again, do it again." Yeah, I remember that.
I think he must have had a bit of the Leonard Bernstein about him. You know,
that's what I was going to. Funny enough, I was going to mention it earlier on. I thought I'd wait till we come to the song and then we'll talk about it. So we have done. We have done that.
Yeah. Great. Did Burt Bacharach do "This Guy's in Love"?
He did.
Yep. This Guy's in Love with You.
Yeah. Favorite Bacharach. Is that Herb Alpert as well? That
Herb Alpert had the big hit with it, and Burt Bacharach and Hal David wrote the song together.
Brilliant, great song. Hey, great choices there. After the Lover's Gone, Georgia on My Mind, What the World Needs Now, You've Lost That Loving Feeling, and Alfie. And now, this is one what I think we've been looking forward to, your top 5 comedians of all time.
Okay. Again, in no particular order, purely for alphabetical reasons, I've got to say Woody Allen,
Okay.
as my first. Funny guy, beautiful writing. He edits so well. There's no fat on, like if you're looking at a steak, there's no fat on it.
Yeah.
It's lean. What was the joke with the he's on stage wearing the old man's watch, on the watch and chain thing, and he says, it means a lot to me. This is on his deathbed. My grandfather sold me this watch.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Now, I was watching something of his the other day, black and white, 1954 or something like that, circa mid-50s. And when you think about it, in this country, I mean, everyone was doing mother-in-law jokes in the 50s, weren't they? And it goes to show how pioneering they were, the Americans, as far as comedy was concerned, that they were talking about...
No question.
Yeah. And then, of course, you had the likes of Lenny Bruce, who I think was another big one of yours.
Well, that's
Probably
my second.
Jumped in. Wow. Okay. Led you on to that one.
He's my second. Yeah, I mean, listen, Lenny wasn't a shtick comic. I'm a shtick comic. I do joke. I do one-liners. He was a lot. I'm not that clever. He was brilliant, and he set the tone for so much that followed. I kind of think when people talk about alternative comedy, for me, alternative comedy was Lenny Bruce, Mort Sahl, and Dick Gregory. And I think Dick Gregory, a black American comic who wrote the joke, he went into a diner, and the guy said, "We don't serve." I won't say the N-word, but he said, "We don't serve the N-word here." And he said, "No." He said, "No, he's not. And I don't want to eat an N-word." He said, "Give me a fucking chicken." Okay. So those guys told it like it is. Mort Sahl was more political. But Lenny Bruce really set the tone and it took a long time before anybody did that here. I remember being at one Christmas night. There's an English comic called John Gordillo. John used to have an open house on Christmas Day, and a bunch of comics would go over after spend the Christmas lunch with the family, go in the evening for a drink and stuff. And he and John had like on tape, like an old film of a celebration of a New York club from the 70s. And Billy Crystal was on, Andy Kaufman, Richard Belzer. There was a whole Paul Reiser. There was a whole bunch of guys, and Andre Vincent was at this dinner. I don't know if you know Andre.
Yeah.
And Andre said, he said, "John, hold the tape for a moment." He said, "Just consider this. When those guys were doing that, what we had was Ben Elton, Alexei Sayle." Now, he didn't say anything derogatory, but I took it as derogatory because I was never a great lover of what the English call alternative comedy. That it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But those America kind of invented stand-up comedy. I just think they were the best. And I have to say, in case I'm not American by birth. I was born in the Ukraine. And went over ended up in America in the 40s, in the 1940s, and learned my trade through vaudeville and the Catskill Mountains. But the Americans, whether they be Jewish or black or Irish, they just nailed comedy, I think. And that's nothing against English comics. One of my favorite comics, although I'm not listed here, is Harry Hill. I just think Harry's adorable. I think he's a genius.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, how could you like? Well, just for me personally, he's Al Murray, the pub landlord. Fabulous. I just think very funny guys, but not in my top 5 of this. My next one, by the way, is Chris Rock.
Right. Okay.
Who I just think is class on legs. I just think he's funny. He's classy. just brilliant. Absolutely. These guys, and he's today.
Yes.
He's today's comic, whereas Woody's not, Lenny's not. My next one would be Richard Pryor. Again, so influential. Lenny Bruce influenced him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever see an interview with Richard Pryor? He'll always say, Lenny Bruce kind of was my hero.
Yeah, well, Bruce was always on the edge, wasn't he? You never knew what he was going to come out with, and sometimes he'd actually be brave enough to say something when he knew he was going to get arrested about 10 minutes later, didn't he?
That's true, and I don't know if you ever heard. Did you ever hear of an American comedian called Vaughn Meader? Vaughn Meader was basically he did impressions of JFK.
Okay.
And he had an album, 1 million. I think the album sold 2 or 3 million. The First Family, where he plays JFK. And on the day JFK got assassinated in Dallas, Texas, Lenny Bruce went on stage that night, and his opening line was, "Poor Vaughn Meader." Now I know that's sick, but today he got laughs for it then. But it was just so for the moment. So when you say he could go out and you didn't know what he was going to say, the president of America has been assassinated, and Lenny Bruce feels sorry for the guy whose career ended that day.
Amazing. He was like he was the comedy equivalent of a jazz musician, wasn't he?
More or less, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, great choices. And Chris Rock, I totally agree. I watched a special of his lately. I think they filmed it over 3 nights, and they cut back and forth. It's seamless, and it's like he's doing one show, but you suddenly see him in 3 different outfits. And
that's right. I've seen it. I think one was from South Africa, one was England, the one was America or something. Yeah. I saw that a couple of years ago. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Richard Pryor again tells it like it is.
Pryor. I mean, there was a documentary on about the Comedy Store in America recently. And,
that was brilliant, wasn't it? That documentary was outstanding.
It was great. And Pryor, again, that sort of exciting, dangerous air of anticipation before he arrived. He would miss the first show when he was due to do like a 9 o'clock show. Say he was on at 10:30, he'd show up at 11:10, when any other comic would be guaranteed to die on their ass because the audience had turned on him. He would come on and have the audience there within 2 seconds.
He seemed so revered by every single comic on that comedy show, the Comedy Store program.
Absolutely.
Everyone said Pryor was the number one.
That's right. Brilliant. That's right. You see some of his, obviously, I never saw him live as it happens, but I've seen stuff on video, whatever, specials. He's just wonderful. I mean, to set yourself on fire when you and admit it and joke about it. My God. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic.
Just while you give us the last one, my window cleaner's here, and I've got to go and open the back gate for him.
Well, my last one.
I'll only be out a couple of seconds. But
shall I hold or shall I start?
No, carry on. Who's your last one?
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles. I'll leave that one to Rod anyway, because I'm pretty sure he's a big fan. I'll be too.
Don Rickles, yeah. Love him. I love watching him on those roasts, and he pops up time and again.
Oh, Rod, he is funnily enough, he had an album out, which was, I think, recorded live in Vegas. I think you can consider what he says to be quite racist today.
Yeah.
He picks on everybody, but when he finishes the show, it always seems very sincere. See, if you go back to Lenny Bruce, if you ever saw the movie Lenny with Dustin Hoffman, there was a particular scene, and this happened. I mentioned Dick Gregory before, and Dick Gregory was in New York. I can't remember where he came from, but he was, I think, maybe the South, or maybe Chicago. I think Chicago, because he was the first black comic to play the Playboy clubs.
Right.
Hugh Hefner put him in to work the Playboy clubs, all the ones in America. But somebody said to Dick Gregory, "You've got to come and see Lenny Bruce." And Lenny Bruce did this thing where he'd be on stage and he'd see a black guy in the audience and he'd say, "Oh, nice to see you. We got an N-word in." Then they'd look at some Jewish guy. "Oh, we got some kikes in." I can say that because I'm a Jew. Yeah. And then spics, wops, whatever people were. And And apparently Dick Gregory would kind of jerk forward, and the guy said, no. The friend says, listen to the routine. And at the end, Lenny Bruce says to the black guy sitting at the front, he said, you wanted to punch me out for saying the N-word? He said, yeah. And he said, you want the Greek guy and the Italian guy and the Spanish guy. He said, if you say these words over and over again, they'll mean nothing. And apparently when Dick Gregory said he was writing a book, and he said, I've just decided the title of my book. And it was This N-Word's Crazy. He said, so whenever my mother hears the N-word, she'll think they're talking about my book.
Wow.
And that's a true story. But we're going so Rickles, as you disappeared, Gary, Rickles could be seen as quite offensive. I think he's not so offensive when he's doing the roast, because he's with fellow performers. I watched one the other day where he, funnily enough, when I was working out who my favorites were, and I watched the roast for Sammy Davis Jr., and he's making jokes about black people, but you've got Sammy sitting there, you got Red Fox sitting there, a lot of young black comics, young at the time they're old now, who obviously weren't offended. Yeah, he could be quite offensive, but the roast, absolutely, he shines.
Have I got the right fella? He's a little tubby fella. Looks a bit like Lou Costello.
Yeah.
We've
got the right guy. Yeah,
that's the man.
And one of the reasons I like it, not that I try to emulate it, but I know there are moments where I've come close offending people by stuff that I've said. I do get a little bit personal sometimes. But the one thing I've always felt was that when I do it, like he does it too, there's a smile on his face, there's a twinkle in his eye. You can see he's not being overtly nasty. I think. I hope nobody gets too offended by me.
No, I think that it's all to do with the way you say it, isn't it? And
I think so.
Those types of comics, and Lisa Lampanelli's another one.
Wonderful. Do you know what? I could have put her on my list. She is. I was talking to. It wasn't Nina. I watched your show with Nina Gillick. I love Nina. I think she's fabulous. Great. I can't remember if it was her. We sat in the dressing room in Sheffield at Toby Foster's gig. I think it was her, and I said,
it would have been.
Look at Lisa Lampanelli. Yeah. I think she's really offensive, but again, it's easier coming from a woman.
Yeah, I think somehow she gets away with it, doesn't she?
It's less offensive.
Yeah. If you've not seen it, guys, she's worth a look.
Yeah, I saw on that the Comedy Store thing.
Of course, yeah.
She's got stuff on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the great thing about YouTube. I mean, even I'm on YouTube.
We've seen you at Melbourne.
It's a great gig, that Melbourne gig.
I was just the reason that I had to go and sort the window cleaner out. Me Ring doorbell just about 5 minutes ago. I looked. It says man hiding in hedge. I was shitting myself. Oh, Christ, I'm under attack here. Luckily, it's the window cleaner. Man hiding in hedge. I've never seen that before.
You thought it was me.
There's your comedians: Woody Allen, Lenny Bruce, Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, Don Rickles.
I mean, you think of all the great double acts. I'm talking Stan and Ollie, Abbott and Costello, Little and Large, Cannon and Ball, Hill and Pace, Zig and Zag, Mike and Bernie Winters, the Crankies, the list goes on. And Gary and Rod, they're just not them, are they?
Correct.
Great selection. Your next one is artists, or groups.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've got, just so you know, there's 4 artists and one group.
Fine, not a problem.
And my first artiste has got to be Frank Sinatra.
Well, you're getting no arguments from either of us there.
Okay. I just think great voice, great style. I think maybe the style is better than the voice. Wonderful timing. When you hear stories that if you ever try to sing along to a Frank Sinatra record, you can't do it. You can't do it because he takes a breath. Apparently, he used to swim underwater to see how long he could hold his breath. The phrasing, come fly with me, come fly. And he's saying, oh, you need to take a breath there. He doesn't. He sails through.
Yeah. He used to watch the trombone player Tommy Dorsey, didn't he?
Correct.
and he'd sneak a little breath out the corner of his mouth. He was watching him, and then he twigged that that's what Tommy Dorsey was doing, and so he was able to play these incredible phrases on the trombone. And
he would take a breath from the corner of the mouth, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. And he applied that to the singing, and the rest is geography, isn't it?
I love the little asides he used to do in songs. He just, where does it hurt you, honey? Little bit, where does it hurt you, honey? I just love all that, mate.
There's a great concert that he did. I think it was live at the Sands, and there must be a 20-minute monologue in between a couple of songs, and it's funny. People, he could have been a stand-up. The timing's there. He's got the audience there. Just so talented. And then you see him in the MGM musicals with Gene Kelly. He's a brilliant dancer. He's a great actor. He won the Oscar. I mean, he was the whole package, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Funnily enough, when you talk, he was a funny man. But I tell you, I personally thought was funnier. Dean Martin.
Oh yeah.
I thought Dean Martin was virtually the comedian's comedian. But I got a lovely story about, you mentioned the Sands Hotel. I've got Frank. I was performing at the Sands, and Frank came into my dressing room. Can you imagine? It's like God coming in. He said to me, "Solly," he gave me a hug. He said, "I love you." I said, I don't know what to call you. He said, "You call me Frank. That's it." He said, "Sol," he said, "I just watched you." He said, "You sing, you dance." I used to do impressions then. Magic, card tricks. I occasionally do a card trick. The triangle. He said, "You got show business in your blood." I said, "Thank God for that." I thought it was syphilis. I have to tell you, but I worship that man. Absolutely.
Like I say, you get no quarrels, no arguments from me and Rod. We absolutely love the fella. Number 2 on your list?
Number 2, I'm going to go for Elvis Presley. I loved Elvis. The early stuff. I never liked the later stuff particularly. Early stuff was the Sun Records. I love the Sun Records. The early some of the stuff came out in the UK on HMV and the RCA stuff. I see you're not too impressed with that. But I loved Elvis. I loved Elvis because he fused together what, black music, rhythm and blues, country music, and gelled it, and it all became rock and roll. And I thought that was a wonderful time. Yeah. I'm a big band fan, obviously a jazz fan, but I love rock and roll.
And he definitely ramped up the sex appeal as far as music was concerned, because before that, you had sex appeal through the likes of Sinatra with the Bobby Soxers fainting off and all that. But then when Elvis came on and suddenly, he was gyrating and doing all that.
It's like watching Gary Marshall.
That's a big part of his act these days.
Quicker.
Yeah.
So brilliant. Frank and Elvis. Who's number 3 on your list?
Number 3. He could have been number 1. Ray Charles.
Okay, I thought he might.
Yeah, again, somebody who could do not virtually, but could do anything.
Yeah.
He could sing rock, rhythm and blues, country, ballads, standards. There was a lovely album came out a couple of years ago. They found incredible what you can do with technology. They found a tape that he'd recorded with the Count Basie Orchestra.
Right.
And I think the voice was there, but the backing tracks weren't that clear. So I don't know where the microphone was at the time, but they reinvented that concert. They left his voice. Obviously, they left his voice. They couldn't. He was already dead, but they reenacted the Basie Orchestra. And he sings, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Now, you're not a song you'd associate with Ray Charles.
Not really.
But it was fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely fabulous.
Ray Charles, he's just a genius on so many different levels, wasn't he? But
absolutely.
And like I said before, the film was great, wasn't it? The Jamie Foxx.
It was.
Absolutely wonderful. And I'm guessing Jamie had to mime for that, because at the same time, about a week or 2 before, the movie came out on Bobby Darin.
Oh, with Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey sang. He didn't mime to Darin. He actually sang the parts. And he was good. But Jamie Foxx, I thought, was fabulous as Ray Charles.
Yeah. The girl, just seen the Billie Holiday biopic, and she sings her own. She sings all the Billie Holiday stuff in there, and it's an incredible performance. If you haven't seen that,
Who is that? Who's playing Billie Holiday?
That's a good question. A girl I'd never heard of before, but she's you'll hear of her now.
I think she got an award for it, didn't she? Did she win something?
She won a Golden Globe, I think, possibly.
Right. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, my dog's going to go mental in a minute because the window cleaner's at the back window, so please just ignore him.
Okay.
Number 4 on your list?
Well, it's got to be Aretha Franklin.
Oh, respect.
The Queen, absolutely. Listen, I love Dionne Warwick. There's a whole bunch. I always get that. Who's my favorite? The blues player. She plays slide guitar, American. Her name's gone for the moment. I could have picked 20 women, but Aretha's I think my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
Just everything she did was. I had tickets to see her in London, and the gig was cancelled at the Royal Albert Hall. Once, I think the one chance I had to see, because she didn't like to fly. I think she did some TV work over here in the 60s, but I don't think she ever toured.
Wow.
She
would have been a great gig. Aretha Franklin at the Albert Hall. Christ.
The Queen of Soul. Yeah, she was something special, wasn't she?
Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt was the woman I was thinking of.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Absolutely. I've seen her live. She's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And my last but not least, I've got to go for a group. And funnily enough, I was thinking about a song the other day, and I couldn't find it on my iPod. And it turns out that I had it originally on a cassette. And I've now downloaded. I bought it from iTunes. I won't buy from. I won't go on Spotify because I've written songs. I've been a musician, and they pay a real bad rate. So I'll either buy CDs, kosher, proper things, or I'll buy from iTunes. And you're still paying £5-6 for an album, and I know the artist gets a certain amount of money. And there was an album called Gaucho, which came out just over 40 years ago. And Steely Dan,
right?
Oh, is my favorite group.
That's musicians, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah. I suppose so. But this album, I kind of look. I thought, God, this is 40 years old, and it stands up. It could be. It could have been produced this week.
Yeah. That's a really a great choice. I think a lot of musos would concur with you on that. But
hopefully, and my favorite guitar player, who's not a member, or not strictly a member, a guy called Larry Carlton.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's basically was a session player, and I've seen him a couple of times in the last 4 years in London, and he is just a wonderful player. And he played. I was almost going to put TV shows down, and one of my favorites was my God, NYP. No, was it no? Hill Street Blues.
Oh, Hill Street Blues, yeah.
And if you ever hear the theme song from that,
Mike Post, was it? Mike
Post wrote it and produced it, but you don't hear it on the television show. But the full-length version, there is a guitar solo by Larry Carlton.
Right.
He won a Grammy Award for that solo.
Wow.
It's just wonderful. He has a knack of playing a guitar almost like he's playing slide guitar, but he's not. It's just something he does with his left hand. I don't know how he does it. I play a little guitar myself, but I don't know how he does it. But wonderful player. And you can, and on Gaucho, I think on the last track, I can't remember, I was thinking, hang on, that sounds like Larry Carlton. And I Googled it, and Googled, you can find any information you want.
Yeah.
I've just Googled Steely Dan, and Ricky Don't Lose
that number.
I didn't realize that was Steely Dan. It's a great song. That's not on Gaucho though, is it?
No, and Gaucho was, I think, when they started getting into the kind of a jazzier feel.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, when you listen to them, they sound jazzy, and you listen to some of the drum thing, and God, they're so funky. They're just like a really.
Well, Ricky Don't Lose That Number is Yeah.
Well, that's going towards jazz. In fact, the intro is the intro from a famous jazz song, which I can't think of at the moment, but it's a famous song for my father. I can't remember, something like that. It's a famous jazz. Dun, 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 dun. And it's the same intro.
Right. Okay. Oh.
So your artists groups are Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, and Steely Dan.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. And your final one, this is the one that everybody has to choose. It's the dinner guests. And your top 5 dinner guests, dead or alive, are...
Okay. Donald Trump, dead. Preferably. I'm looking for... I was going to put it on Twitter. I was going to send him a message, but he's banned now. I was going to send the real Donald Trump, looking forward to reading your obituary. And I don't say that with any pleasure. I don't hate. I don't really feel hate. There's something about that man. I think I hate him. I have to say. Yeah. I just think he's a wicked, cruel, narcissistic son of a bitch.
But amazingly, he's now at 2 dinner parties.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he alive?
He was alive at the other one.
Alive on this one. I think.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump was in Nina Gilligan's, actually.
Was she?
Yeah.
I watched it all. I don't remember. I got a terrible memory. Actually, probably did.
Well, Nina hates him as well. So happy days.
Yeah, I think whoever invited him live was going to kill him during the.
I was going to.
There's Donald, number 2 at your dinner.
I know. Number 2. Well, I've already kind of mentioned him. I'm going to get a little religious shortly, but I wanted Ray Charles.
Okay.
Just to relive sitting having a meal with him. Because I'd done it in the past. I just wanted to sit with him one more time and tell him I love him.
Yeah, lovely. He's
absolutely. My next one, I hope I don't shock you, and I hope I'm not offending people. I'd like to meet the Virgin Mary because I want to ask her that question. Okay.
Yeah. Well. And if she turned to you and said, I've been struggling with Joseph, can you help out? Would you tell her about the vasectomy?
No, I would just get it. I would just get in there and do it. Okay.
You could have been the Son of God, Sol.
I reckon
or the father of the Son of God, at least.
Close.
Yeah, the turkey basing was about a long time before, I think, myself.
I know. my next one has to be actually is Jesus. And I don't know if I'm sure other people have picked him.
Once that's now the second time Jesus has appeared.
But I really want to. I have 2 questions. I want to know. Firstly, was he Jewish? I need to know if he was Jewish, and if he was, did he have a bar mitzvah? Because I never read anywhere that he was 13. He had a bar mitzvah, and it's a Jewish tradition. You give for you give a fountain pen. You know, the old-fashioned fountain pens? When the bar mitzvah boy made a speech for I probably stopped now, but all through my lifetime, even in the 1930s and 40s, the bar mitzvah boy made a speech to thank his family for having the big party, and to thank God that he's now a man. And you say, today I am a fountain pen. So I would love to know if Jesus was bar mitzvahed or not.
Well, Robin Williams had a theory that Mary and Joseph weren't Jewish. I can remember him saying, when I saw him live in London, he said that up until, Mary and Joseph, all the names in the Bible were quite sort of religious and very, very, very Jewish. Abraham, Isaac, and then all of a sudden you get Mary and Joe. And he said, as far as he was concerned, we were only a hyphen away from Jim Bob. Jesus being called Jim Bob, and everyone could have been singing, praise to you, Jim Bob.
You've mentioned the name, which I know Nina mentioned.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams, and I have to say, I'm not sure which one it was, if it was you, Rod, or you, Gary. I wasn't a big fan of his comedy, of Robin Williams.
That's me. I didn't get him. Didn't get him at all.
As an actor, I thought he was absolutely off the scale, fantastic. But comedy-wise, I know comedy's subjective. People say, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's no wrong or right in comedy, is there? You can't say he was. There's absolutely no wrong. Like you say, it's the most subjective subject of all time, I think. So.
No, I tell you something that bugged me. I'm going to mention another couple of names. I've seen over the years, you all see these chat shows. Robin Williams would go on. Billy Connolly would go on. Spike Milligan would go on. You didn't need another guest.
Yeah.
They made him obsolete. And I hated that because there were other people on the shows who were completely ignored because these three characters took over the whole show.
Yeah.
And I really love my fellow performers.
Yep.
Genuinely. When Gary sent me a message, Sol, would you like to do? No question. I'd have canceled something to do something for you today. And and don't get tearful on me or any bullshit. I genuinely love my fellow performers.
Yeah.
I love sitting in the green room with my fellow performers, whether I think they're funny or not, or whether they think I'm funny or not, doesn't matter. I know what it takes to get up on the stage and do what we all do, whether it works or it doesn't work.
I remember.
I know what it takes.
I remember that night after in the Isle of Man when we were trying to find a pub open. To me, you and Lee Roberts were trying to find a pub open.
I remember. We
actually sat in the Premier Inn foyer eating wine gums. I think it was. That was as good as
because there was no alcohol. There was no bars.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Yeah, but that was a lovely hour spent eating wine gums and quavers and what have you.
Absolutely. And that joy. Listen, it helped. It helped that I thought you were both funny, so I didn't have to bullshit my way saying, "Oh, you were fabulous tonight." You genuinely enjoyed the shows and your company, so that helps. But just that's the thing about getting back to work. That camaraderie. I don't know if one of the loveliest nights I had a couple of years ago, just before the first lockdown, I was at Hot Water in Liverpool. And I was on with a Canadian comic, Mike Wilmot. I don't know if you know Mike. Yeah. An older guy, middle-aged guy.
Yeah.
Young Northern comic, Scott Bennett.
Okay. I know Scott.
Wonderful. And Paul Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Who's Liverpool's own. And I tell you what, he is fabulous. And the audience is just, the Hot Water because of partly because of Paul Smith. They love him. He filled out the big arena. He is wonderful, and he's so giving. The first time I played there, I thought, God, they love him. They're not going to. The audience are not going to accept any acts. Because, like I used to hear stories about Peter Kay. I never met him or worked with him, but at the Frog and Bucket, we'd bring an act on, and the audience would go, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be back." Ooh. Well, I hate that. An MC doesn't do that. I know he did it. But that's by the by. I'm not going to badmouth him. I never met the guy, never worked with him. I've only heard stories if they're true or not. But Paul Smith, when he introduces you, the audience go for it.
Right.
There is not even a split second where they wait to see if they like you or not. He's introduced you and said that you're a friend, you're a legend, whatever, a legend in your own lunch hour or whatever.
Yeah.
He says it and they buy it, and you've got to come up with the goods. But I love Liverpool audiences.
But a good MC can help you massively. Absolutely. If they like the MC and he says he doesn't want to bullshit you and bull you up too much, but as long as he gives you that in, that the audience feel confident with you. I think a good MC is worth whatever they're paying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We did that thing last year. We did a Sunday afternoon in Doncaster, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. How good were you on that, by the way?
Well, forget that. But I was going to say, Jamie was hosting, and I thought he did a fabulous job.
Yeah, we've got one coming up. It's because on the 4th of July, we've got the next one. It's called Reborn on the 4th of July, the variety show, and I've got Jamie to MC that one as well. Rod's done it as well. In fact, Rod, you MC'd the first one. I did. Do you remember?
Yeah. Great afternoon, and all for a great cause as well.
You walk in that room, you think, "Oh my God, what has he booked me in here?" But You know what I mean? You're looking at that.
You read my mind.
That table's trouble. Oh my God! Look at them there. They're all dressed like Peaky Blinders, but they just well up for it, and they're a great crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Live at the Woody. So we've got Donald Trump, Ray Charles, the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ. I'm guessing the fifth one's Jeremy Corbyn.
No. It's going to be Moses.
Oh,
listen. It's my history. It's I just like to meet the man. I want to find out if he really parted the waters. I doubt it very much, but I would just sit there and say. What I really wanted to find out, because apparently the story goes that Mel Brooks tells the story that Moses was on the mount, and suddenly there's a big clap of thunder and lightning, and God's voice says, Moses, and he offers him the tablets, and he says, Moses says, how much are they? And God says, they're nothing. He says, I'll take 10. I want to find out if that actually happened. Jeremy Corbyn. No, I'm not gonna pick Jeremy Corbyn. No, I'm not today.
No, not today. Well, you've had a great some great things on your list. Your films, your Godfather, your gangster films. Quite a lot of gangster films.
That's my favorite genre, to be honest with you.
Your comedians, all American: Woody Allen, Lenny Bruce, Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, Don Rickles, Frank Sinatra, Elvis, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Steely Dan. Your songs, love your songs. After Love Is Gone, Georgia on My Mind, What the World Needs Now, You've Lost That Loving Feeling, and Cilla Black's Alfie. And then your dinner guest, Donald Trump, dead, obviously, Ray Charles, the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ, and Moses.
I had JFK down there too, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, 5 outstanding fives, I think. They're absolutely fantastic to have your company, Sol. And,
absolute pleasure. I look forward to meet you in real life. And Gary, please God, we'll work together again. Hopefully,
work together again. Bring you back up for another Sunday afternoon in Donny. So
whenever you want me. And also, I'm hoping maybe another Isle of Man, because I was actually booked for another Isle of Man in July for the shutdown, and the guy whose party it was, who booked the gig, it was his birthday on the Friday, so I was going back for 2 nights.
Unbelievable.
And I have to tell you how I got involved with those shows.
Yeah.
I think it was Mick Miller.
Yeah.
And Jamie recommended me to. Is it Martin?
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis, the agent.
Yeah.
And that's how I got that show.
Well, Mark said to Max, do you want to go to the Isle of Man? And who do you want to go with? So I said, Lee Roberts and Sol Bernstein. Why not? Let's have a go.
Wow. Oh, really? Oh, boy. Thank you. Oh, well.
So I worked with Sol once, loved him. Get out of here. Get out of here.
We did Fording Bridge. We did.
Hey, Ivy Bridge.
Ivy Bridge, rather. That's right. Fording Bridge is near Bournemouth.
And we'll get you up for another golf day as well next year, because we lost out on one of them, so we'll bring you back for another.
Hey, well,
I need some women in the audience. I shit my pants when I walked in and didn't see a woman.
There was one woman, I think. That was my son's girlfriend who you sat on the table with.
That's right. And Rod, I tell you, I'll tell another comic. I wouldn't tell the audience members. My first 5 minutes, I thought I just lost it. I just didn't do what I was supposed to do. I just kept looking around. All I could see was men, and I thought, I didn't know this was a men-only thing.
Listen, where you stood as well, it's odd. You're in like there's 2 rooms, isn't there?
Correct.
That's the weirdest thing with having it been in the middle of COVID. You're having to stand in the middle and turn one side and turn. It wasn't the right thing, to be honest with you, but we had to go for it. And
yeah, no, absolutely,
you know
absolutely. I know.
I thought you did really well. I really did.
I in defense of myself, I turned it.
Absolutely.
But it was bloody hard work.
We had David Redfern on first, Rod. We had Magic in the room as well.
Yeah.
And that took a while, didn't it? As well, that took a while to get it through. But yeah, it was a strange room. I think next time when there's no COVID and you stood in the middle and in a proper environment, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Well,
You were
can't
brilliant,
wait
pal.
for that. And Sol, before you do get out of here, I can't let you go without, because they say you should always finish on a bit of music, don't they? So I was wondering if we could trouble you for a few strains on the triangle.
Just 40 minutes, please, Sol.
What the world needs now
Is
love, small Jews. Don't tell Jeremy Corbyn.
Wow. Fantastic. That Miles Davis knew a good thing when he saw it.
Absolutely. The man had taste. As the you two, and I want to thank the producer, Ian Parsons. Thanks for having me on the show. It's the best way to spend an hour or whatever in a long time.
It's great to see you. And thanks for your impeccable taste. We look forward to seeing you in the new world. Cheers, Solly.
Hope so. God bless you. Stay safe.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I like the Gimme 5 podcast because, it's crazy.
Well, I'd never met him before, but I feel like I've known him for years. What a great guy.
He's brilliant.
Sol Bernstein. Yeah.
He is class.
Some great choices.
Yeah. And do you know the good thing about this is the stuff I don't know, like the gangster films you all watch. So it's brilliant. I'll just sit back and listen and learn from things like this. And like the American comedians, I'm not massive on the American comedians, but I know you love American comedians. So it's one of them. It's TV programs. I know you're not keen on TV, so I'm straight in with them. You know what I mean?
To use a golfing parlance, I think we dovetail okay.
Oh, we dovetail. Well, I think we won 3 and 2. Happy days.
Oh, well, if you enjoyed Sol Bernstein, we'll be back with more of the same. And hopefully we'll be unearthing some more left field choices. A couple popped out there that we certainly weren't expecting.
No.
They were first timers and probably one and onlys, I dare say.
The Virgin Mary.
The Virgin Mary.
Yes.
Never thought she'd get a look in.
No, I never did. Never at all. Steely Dan. From nowhere. Steely Dan. Bosh.
And yet also
Rickles.
Don Rickles. Yeah, that could be controversial. But at the same time, there were a few staple ones in there, weren't there?
Elvis. Elvis always gets a massive shout. Frank Sinatra. The Godfather. Godfather's going to be a biggie. It's going to be high up in the films, I think, The Godfather. I must admit, I enjoyed his song choices, even though After the Love Is Gone, you forget that The Earth, Wind and Fire. It's just a brilliant song.
I'm going to listen to that this afternoon.
Good idea. Get it on Spotify. No, not Spotify. They don't pay the wages.
They don't pay the rates, do they?
No, they don't pay the rates. You know why? They're buying Arsenal. That's why. Come on to Spotify.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your company as ever, Gaz. And we will reconvene for the next installation. Until then, as ever, this has been a Tis Done production at the hands of the brilliant Ian Parsons. Till we see you next time, take care.
Nano.
Give me 5. Nano. Damn.